Hello, friends. A good night of Shabbos to everybody. Let's begin with tzedakah and Tehillim. Particularly, I want you to join me, friends, in saying and giving tzedakah now as we speak, and saying Tehillim for Joanna Barsisas, who needs a great healing, a great blessing, at a refuah shalema. She's 52 years old, so we say chapter 53. Can you hear me? Because I didn't put the mic. You hear me? Yeah. If you go on Facebook and just tag Joanne, or there's a whole movement that was launched that women should light Shabbat candles in her honor and say her chapter of Psalms and give tzedakah. Men should put on tefillin. You can see that on Facebook. So we'll say chapter 53. She's 52, which means she's in her 53rd year. I think I mentioned this recently, that it's a custom that every individual, every person, each one of you should say every day your corresponding chapter of Psalms, and those of your loved ones that you'd like to say for, your spouses, children, grandchildren. Some of us can spend the whole day saying Tehillim. All right, so it's chapter 53. If you'll please join me. Lam natzeach al machalas maskil David Omar novel belibo ein Elohim mishchisa v'yisiva ovel ein eisitay v'elim b'shemayim mishkiv abnei adam lireish hayesh maskil deris elihim kol yisog yachtov ne'alocha ein eisitay v'in gamechad layodo peli oven eichlo amei ochlo lechem elihim leikara shom pachad upachad lehoya fachad kilihim pisa atzmei scheinach v'shaisa kilihim awesome mitim yitzin yeshus Yisrael Yeshuv Elihim Shvus Ama Yogel Yaakov Yismach Yisrael. And her name her Jewish name is
Sadie Bat Rivka, I saw.
Yeah, say it, much you pronounce that here. Sadie Bat Rivka, correct. And also, I just got notice for a little boy that needs a great healing. I'm going to say his name. I'm going to say Tehillim for him as well. Just got this. This is urgent. He's 12 years old. His name is Rafal Meir Ben Bluma Yente. So let's say the 13th chapter, since he's 12 years old. How long, God, will you hide your face from me? Look and answer me, O God, my God. Light up my eyes. And I, in your kindness, I've trusted. My heart will rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to God because he dealt kindly with me. And finally, in summation, Rebbe's Kapitel, chapter 120, Shir Amali, Saradani Batzarasa di Karasi Vianeni, No Yatzila Nafshi Misras Shekin, Meloshin Miya, Mayitilach Loch, Mitilach Maisiv Lach Loshin Miya, Hitze Gibish, Nunim Gachli Samim, Oili Gigarti Meshach Shachanti Malikedar, Rabbi Shochna Lo Nafshi, Misedin Sholem and Yisholem Vechi Adaber, Heimalam Milchama. Friends, I didn't think I would be here in Montreal today. You probably recognize the background. It's my office in my house. I thought I'd be in Montreal, but heaven had other, I thought I'd be in New York, I'm sorry, but heaven had other plans. Now, why would I be in New York? Why would I not be in New York? Because this weekend, friends, it began on Thursday, thousands of my fellow Shluchim from every corner of the globe have gathered for days of intensive learning, inspiration, and sharing. And it's always, every year, it's an annual convention. It's the largest of its kind in history, both in numbers, so many rabbis gathered in one place, but more importantly, it's historical because of the nature of these rabbis. They are not the classic rabbis who are hired by congregations whose contracts are renewed, hopefully, and the rabbi, when he gets a better offer, will move to a larger congregation, etc., which is normal. That's his career. He is in the career of rabbinics. And of course, he wishes to advance his career. None of the shluchim share that with the classic rabbi of the world. They create their congregations. They go to these places and they create the congregations. And they're there for life, whether it's in a small town in Alaska or in Siberia or Auckland, New Zealand, or even Hampstead, Montreal. We are shluchim. We are not career rabbis. We are messengers, emissaries of our Rebbe. Our goal is nothing less than to touch and reach every Jew in our given community, to be there and help in every way possible, materially and spiritually and socially. And we are here till Mashiach comes with our flock. So it's a new phenomenon. The world has never seen such rabbis before in such great numbers and with such incredible, I don't speak of myself, I speak of my colleagues, devotion and dedication. There's no sacrifice living in Hampstead, Montreal, but there certainly is for my children who live in small towns in Seattle or New Jersey or Maryland, in a small town where there's no Jewish infrastructure. And you got to send your kids to school every day for an hour and a half on a bus. I think I mentioned when I was in Edmonton, so one of the shluchim who lives in California, who came for his nephew's bar mitzvah, tells me that his daughter, who is now studying in a seminary in Jerusalem, she just graduated high school. So she made a calculation that she spent 10 and a half years on a bus of her life. She's only a teenager. That's because they lived in a small town and the Jewish school was an hour and a half drive there and back every day. Or the Jewish school that they would go to. So that sacrifice, my friends, or sending your children away altogether when they're 12 years old to a yeshiva in New York or in Israel because your local community does not have a yeshiva. That sacrifice. Or the kids never eating pizza. Well, they get frozen pizza, I guess, but there's no pizza store, no restaurant, none of the things we take for granted in a big city like Montreal. That sacrifice. So what I'm saying, this convention is historical. It's just mind-blowing. In fact, it's so historical that the world is yet to appreciate it. It's starting to. It's starting to, because the world is becoming increasingly a more global village. People are traveling and see what the Rebbe has done in every corner of the globe. Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, all over Asia. And the great revolutions that the shluchim and their wives have wrought, one Jew at a time, one by one. It isn't about the numbers. It's about every Jew being the whole world, although we do not rest until we reach every Jew. But that's what's unique also about Chabad. It isn't about building a congregation or community. That's incidental. It's about touching people's lives one by one. For that, we need an institution, you need a building, we need all kinds of resources, but the bottom line is the people. That's the essence of the of the whole mission, of the whole shlichus. Shlichus means Hebrew mission, on which one is sent. Of course, it's all voluntary. It comes because people want to, and it's a privilege to be the Rebbe Shliach and to live a life of service. Not for a year or two, but for life. Not for a stint, but till the last breath that the good Lord sees fit to give. So it's historical. I mean, it's just incredible, and the energy there, the joy. It is beyond magic, my friends. I would have been there, but again, I was prevented by heaven. So I'm here. I would have had this Friday at 4 anyway, but I thought I'd do it from my daughter's house in Crown Heights, from Rachel's house. But here I am in Montreal. So you can, as I wrote to you today, I encourage you, 6 o'clock on Sunday, just click on the link at the grand banquet, and it's very inspiring, and you'll get a sense of the excitement, the joy. You can watch it from the comfort of your home. Of course, I will as well, as will hundreds of thousands, if not more than that, around the world to be watching live the annual banquet in New York. Since I'm on the invitations, I want to remind you again, you've all read this in my email to you about the upcoming course in anti-Semitism. It's a wonderful course. It's very uplifting and empowering, full of very interesting information that many of us probably would not be aware of. I certainly wasn't as I glanced at the curriculum. And I invite you all to attend. It's 4 weeks. I think it's $70. You'll get a book delivered to your door, and we will explore this crazy hatred of the Jews, and more importantly, is there an answer? And can we see results? So all to be seen, and study together. Hope you'll join and spread the word. So friends, getting back to this incredible weekend, it's like the blood comes back to the heart to receive oxygen, be purified, and from there to be pumped out to all of the organs of the body. You see, the Jewish people are like, we are one great spiritual body. So let me try and explain in a few words the phenomenon of Chabad. But first, a little story that happened this week. Now, it needs a bit of background to appreciate it. I hope that I'll be successful in conveying the enormity of this incident. Thousands of Jews around the world, or tens of thousands of Jews around the world, study every day a page of Talmud, a folio of Talmud, 2 sides. It's called Daf Yomi. It's a very popular study, becoming increasingly so. If you learn a folio of Talmud every day, so in 7 years, the entire Talmud is completed. Every 7 years, they make this massive gathering in Madison Square Garden or one of the huge gatherings centers in New York City. There was one just recently. And many Jews study this. Now, one of the popular teachers on the internet, his name is Rabbi Eli, which I just posted the story, so I'll tell you his name. 1 second. Shluchim. When you want to find something, you never find it, right? It's the old principle. I posted it here. His name is Rabbi Eli Stefansky. You can Google him and you'll see. Every day he gives a class in the Talmud, and he's watched by thousands in English. Now, you have to know Jewish history, friends, to appreciate what I'm going to tell you. But you may know, I'm sure you are aware, that the Hasidic movement, particularly Chabad in the early days, was the target of tremendous opposition by the religious rabbinic establishment that sought to eradicate the movement. Very serious opposition. The history is widely known, and it's a fascinating study, and thank God it's all behind us to a large degree, or almost entirely. Tremendous opposition to the Hasidic movement by their opponents, who were the establishment for the most part, called the Mitnagdim, which means the opponents. Now, one of the great yeshivas in Lithuania, in a town called Ponyevich, is called just that, the Ponyevich Yeshiva. After the war, it relocated to Bnei Brak in Israel. It's one of the largest yeshivas in Israel. And its culture and history is rooted in the anti-Hasidic, anti-Chabad establishment of yesteryear. And although, thank God, there's no conflict anymore, but unfortunately, until recently at least, there's been, to put it mildly, differences of opinion. So I'm going to tell you what this Rabbi Eli Stefansky said at a recent class. Word for word, the opening quotation, word for word, and this is mind-blowing. He says, I'm a graduate of this Ponyevich Yeshiva, and he's a humble fellow. He's not just a graduate, he's one of his star pupils. This man is teaching the entire Talmud, every day, 2 pages. You've got to be a great scholar and very talented to do that. And have devoted many years to study. Talmud is complex and dense and very nuanced and razor sharp in its analysis upon analysis upon analysis. So he's giving his class, and I just was sent the clip. I don't know the context of, yes, the class talks about if a Jew never put on tefillin ever in his life, then it's a terrible thing. You have to put on every day, but never once. The Talmud has very strong words to say, and what happens to that soul after death, not pretty at all. In that context, he tells the following story. He said, I recently had married off my child, a son or a daughter. Now listen to these words. As a graduate of Ponyevich, what's the worst thing that could happen at your wedding? He's saying this. The worst thing is that Chabad should come and set up a tefillin booth. Now the Chabad guy came and asked permission if I could do that, like a little table to put on tefillin with the guests. And he said, I said yes. And he put on tefillin with 19 Jews. One Jew hadn't put on tefillin in many years. And he goes on to say how beautiful this was and how embarrassed he is that his own tefillin that he's wearing for 30 years, he's a young guy, he's like 45. 30 years, maybe 10 people put on. And these people, the Chabad guys, the Lubavitcher boys, how many Jews they have connected to and saved from the terrible consequences of never having put on tefillin in their life. How wonderful this is. And then he tells a story that he has a partner. This guy himself, here's a picture of him. He's a self-made millionaire. He retired in Jerusalem. His partner, he didn't say, is a billionaire. He says, these Chabad boys come every Friday. That's what Chabad boys do. Friday afternoon, the average yeshiva student, not in Chabad, he washes his clothes, goes to the laundry, plays some sports, whatever, which is wonderful. But the Chabad boys, Friday afternoon, as you all know, hit the road with their tefillin, go to offices or standing shopping centers outside mitzvah tanks. So he says, the Chabad boys come to my yard. They don't know my partner is a billionaire. He sits in a little small office, which he shares with somebody else. He says he's a real billionaire. And he says, every week they come and he dismisses them, he says, and he dismisses them very disrespectfully. I got no time for you, leave me alone. Yeah. But they persist. Every week they come. And one week he put on film. He says one week they touched me, they put on film by their just dogged sincerity and refuse to be intimidated. A Jew says, no, what's the secret to Chabad? We don't take no for answer. Why? Because, deep down the guy wants, or she wants the mitzvah. The no is external. Deep down, we want to do the right thing. So they came back. He says, they don't know. He tells his listeners that this guy's a billionaire, and I don't even know if he gave them a dime or Chabad or whatever it is, whichever Chabad house they were coming from. He said, I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this rabbi.
I was just thinking when I was learning this, that as somebody that learned the Panovich, what is possibly the worst thing that could happen to me at my son's chasana?
My son's wedding.
A Lubavitcher setting up a tefillin stand at my son's shmur. And that's what
And he goes on to tell the story. It's his son's wedding. It was a daytime wedding, which is why they did it. But what I'm trying to tell you, he represents the world that was vehemently opposed to Chabad and the Hasidic movement. He's the star pupil of the yeshiva that's the symbol of the non-Chabad world. And look what he's saying. He's envious of these boys. This is wonderful. They are the front line first responders of the Jewish people. We're in a crisis. Assimilation is rampant. And Chabad's in the front line. And those that oppose Chabad are lauding it and supporting it. This is incredible. This is only one example. There's many others of former opponents. It's such good news, friends. Those that oppose, that criticize, were against the outreach that Chabad is doing, and against. The Rebbe was a lone voice in the whole rabbinic Torah world. Not only no support, many were opposed to what he was doing. Having the parades on the street with the children, it was embarrassing. We don't do that. Today, everybody's embraced it all, and the publicity and getting out there and shlichus. And the main thing, friends, is every Jew who travels the world, if he wants a Friday night meal and it's free and it's accepted, you go to Chabad, and then all of a sudden he finds out who's at the table. His whole world opens up of what a Jew is. The Chabad houses all over the world, but especially in Asia and Europe, well, everywhere. It's the travelers that visit these Chabad houses that's changing the whole perception of the Jewish world and uniting it and appreciating what the Rebbe has done and joining forces. This is just absolutely incredible. It's one of the most powerful signs we're close to Mashiach's coming, when that yeshiva that he represents, and he's the star pupil, is praising, encouraging, and is grateful that at his wedding, Chabad put on film on other Jews. This is a thing that they used to more than criticize, missing the word. As a kid growing up, I remember the tremendous opposition from the religious world, the Torah world. And now, allies. The Rebbe persevered. Why was he successful? The big question the world's trying to understand. Why is it that the Chabad men and women, where does this sacrifice come from? They're not martyrs, not special people. I'm as selfish as the next guy. Okay, again, one more example. Living in the lap of luxury. Talking about my colleagues, my children, who live God-forsaken places for life till Mashiach comes. What is it? Who? The young American, Australian, Canadian, Israeli, Russian kids. In the thousands. What's the explanation? What's the explanation? And it's unprecedented in history because it's illogical. Okay, this outreach. You go for a year or two and you come back home. You're paid, you get a salary. Even outreach, Jewish outreach is new. It's only also emulating Chabad. The Torah world didn't care about the assimilated Jew. You made your choice, goodbye. We'll put up a wall. The whole outreach is all inspired by the Rebbe. But the Chabad outreach remains unique in that it's not outreach, it's your life. So what inspires this, friends? What inspires this? Everybody knows it's the Rebbe, but what does that mean? So, Rabbi, how influential can you be? How influential can you be that 28 years after his passing, young couples who never saw him because are born after he passed away, are going out inspired as his personal emissaries? How is this to be explained? The truth is, I don't have enough time now to explain it, but I'm just going to say it in one word because I can't ask a question, not answer. And more importantly, the message that I want to convey. It's all about the soul, the neshama, meaning. What is a Rebbe? Who was Moses? Who are the great leaders of our people? They're not just great people with great minds and visionaries and great scholars and miracle workers, although they are all of that, that's not what makes them what they are. A Jewish leader is not that. You see, friends, as I mentioned earlier today, the entire Jewish people is one body. We're one spiritual body. Some of us are the hands, some are the feet. But then there's the heart, the brain. These are organs of the body which are not individual limbs. They are what give life and vitality to the entire body. The heart, the limbs, the liver. So the Jewish leaders, that's what they are spiritually. They are like the heart of the people, the brain, the liver. In fact, the word melech, which means a king, and I mean this spiritually, has 3 letters. Those of us who know Hebrew. Mem, lamet, chaf, moyach, lev, koved. Brain, heart, liver. Those are the 3 letters that make up the word melech, king. Because the true king is devoted to the people, mind, heart, his entire being is the people. And that's forever. This is a spiritual connection. Being connected to the Rebbe means you feel every other Jew. That's a simple equation. Because he's the heart, the brain, who pumps out the blood to every limb and organ of the body, the brain via the nervous system, animates and gives sensitivity to. They're not organs on their own. They are one with and give life to every other part of the body, every hair follicle. So when you're plugged into a leader like this, the way one ought to be, the consequence is you start to feel the responsibility and the connection to every other Jew. I might be a little finger, but if I'm plugged into the heart, all of a sudden I feel I'm part of something much bigger. And every Jew is precious and every Jew is indispensable. The answer you're hearing, friends, which needs much explanation, but I hope I'm giving you the gist of it. What's the secret to Chabad? The answer is the Rebbe. But what does that mean? That means plugged into a part of the Jewish people that is connected to all the Jewish people. So you don't live a life for yourself. You can't. You're plugged into the heart. And the deeper you're plugged in to the heart and to the brain, the more you feel another Jew, the more you dedicate to another Jew, the more you feel that we are all one. And no life can be complete without our fellow Jew. And it's a privilege to serve. It's a privilege. This is the secret. This is a soul thing. The soul is forever. Rebbe passed away almost 30 years ago. His soul continues to live like all souls are eternal. And his presence was never greater. This is a spiritual, soulful connection that death does not part. Unto death does us part. Not this. Death does not part. The soul connections remain. And so these young couples, their 20s, 30s, picking up voluntarily and going on shlichus to who knows where, places I can't even pronounce, I never heard of. Proud, the Chabad Shluchim. Yes, deeply personal, the Chabad Shluchim. They're plugged into the heart of the Jewish people. And that makes them vigorous and alive and energetic and joyous and devoted. And they're not martyrs. They're not martyrs. Friends, last night, I'm here. I told you I didn't go. Last night at about 10:30 at night, I get a phone call. Couple of the young shluchim are Farbrengen. My son-in-law is one of them, Yossi Spalte in Montville, New Jersey, and his friends. One of them is in Norway, a shliach. The other one is in some hick town in Northern California. The fourth one, where is he in shlichus? So somewhere in New Jersey, I think, in a small town, New Jersey. I mean, I was so, they're calling me, I should bring, I talk to them, inspire them. Says, me, I should inspire you. You guys inspire me. The humility and the joy and the humor. Alive. It's just, it's a breath of fresh air and it's breathtaking. And you'll get a sense of it, friends, when you, 6 o'clock, on Sunday, when you when you log on and watch the banquet. They wanted guidance, advice. Whatever, I mean, just guys, I'm looking to you for inspiration. I'm just giving you a taste. I'll tell you, so sitting somewhere in a corner, fabeng, a little achayim. There's workshops and classes and all. It's incredible 4 days of learning opportunity and sharing. The shluchim share their trial, their error, what works, and they share. It's a brotherhood. I mean, the Jewish people are a brotherhood, but the shluchim these are soul brothers. It's more than blood brothers and sisters. Yeah, just incredible to feel that energy, that love, and the core of it, friends, is where does it come from? Because you're plugged into the heart of the Jewish people. You feel every Jew. You can't live in isolation. Little finger on the right side of the body. My own little finger world. The finger feels it's part of the whole body. And the whole body's well-being is integral to it and it to the entire body. We're one body. It's the heart and the brain that gives that. So friends, this Shabbat is an incredible Shabbat. That's why I started saying it's like the blood comes back from all the limbs to the heart to get oxygen and be cleansed and pumped out again to every part of the body with vitality and life. That's what this Shabbos is. That all the shluchim come back to their father's table, to the Rebbe's table, to dine at his table. As you know, in 2 months, it's the women's shluchas. The men stay home with the kids, and the women come. They have a different date. Both can't come because someone's got to run the Chabad house and look after the children. So it's the men now and the women later. Their wives, our wives. And that they always convene in the Shabbos before the Rebbe's yahrzeit, the Rebbe's wife's yahrzeit. It's always the Shabbos before, in February sometime. So the bottom line, friends, is the Rebbe insisted. Here's the Rebbe's final message to us, almost literally his final message. We are all shluchim. They are all part of the Jewish people. We are all connected to the heart. We all share the responsibility for our fellow Jews. Everybody, there's no exception. We all have the power to do so, to make a difference. We have to challenge ourselves. What am I doing to make a difference in somebody's life? And give it serious thought, whether it's through financial support or it's emotional support or picking up and visiting. This is the question that the shliach wakes up with every morning. What am I doing today to bring life and love and Yiddishkeit to another Jew? This is not exclusive for the shluchim, the Rebbe said. He says all of us are all part of this great spiritual body. And we all have the koyach. We all have the ability to make a huge difference through simple acts of goodness and kindness and mitzvahs and the Shabbos that you're going to keep. Tonight's kiddush, the candles you will light tonight, ladies. Guys, that film you put on, that stocker, you give these things that transforming the world mitzvah by mitzvah. A little bit of light dispels a whole lot of darkness. So it's a very joyous Shabbos. Wherever you are in the world, we plug into this re-energizing of our people that is happening as we speak. And hope to see you all on Sunday night. We'll watch it all together. And better still, of course, much better still, without delay, we merit Mashiach's coming. We're all reunited at home, Israel and Jerusalem, all of us united together in everlasting joy and celebration, never to leave again. Amen. Thank you for joining, my dear friends. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Seid alle gesund und stark. May we hear good news. All that need a healing should have a healing.
Amen.
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 On every level. And it's good to see everybody. I want to see your smiles. Very important. As I thank you. Your smiles give me koyach.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi New.
They give me strength.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
A wonderful Shabbos. Thank you for joining. Be well, everybody.
Shabbos, Shirley. you. Good Shabbos, Sandra. How you
Shabbos to
feeling
everyone.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbos.
God bless you
today?
all.
Shabbos, Razel. Where's Lita? Oh, there's Lita and Seymour.
Good Shabbos.
Hi. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos, Lita.
Good Shabbos.
Candle lighting is
5:37.
5:27.
No, 5:27.
5:27.
5:27.
So give your tzedakah before
Yes.
and light up the world.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Like I said,
Shalom.
good
Thank
Shabbos.
you, Rabbi.